Okay, I learned quite a few things that I'm going to be able to work into my workshop. One thing that really stood out to me was the component display theory, and it's the need to maintain balance between the teacher and the leader talking with participants talking. This balance is critical to participation and involvement of participants. So one of the questions that was asked, reflection questions, was how am I going to do this in my lesson? And one way that I hope to do this is to um, ask questions, of course, to do some worksheets. We had talked about maybe doing some mood logs. And one thing that I was kind of thinking about that I didn't know about beforehand was um, buzz groups. I think that's a great idea. And I know I participated in some of those before, but I had never thought to incorporate that into my group, into my workshop. Another part that I thought was uh, helpful was sharing teaching by the Spirit. And I feel like even though we're not teaching, say, in a church setting or with, like, at church, I feel like the Spirit is still very applicable here with family life education. I feel like at, in some respects, we will be teaching truths that they may not hear um, or haven't heard other places that are are helpful, but that are still truth. And I feel like the Spirit can um, tell them that, to witness that to their souls as they listen to the workshop, even if they aren't members of the church. Um, I think it is so important to tell stories and ask participants um, to share stories. I mean, obviously not anything that would be um, detrimental to me being a going out of bounds as a family educator, but I feel like stories is something that helps me to become more personable. Especially if I have a story that relates to something that somebody else has shared that I can bring in there because it can help us to have a loose brick. And one of the other things that we've got to make sure we do in our workshop is that we make friends with these people, that they feel like we care about them and that we love them. A great way to do that is to talk with them before the workshop starts and to be relatable and personable and show some good personality traits and just care about them. I think that the number one thing that somebody in this situation is going to want is to feel accepted and safe. A great way to show acceptance of people is to, listen to them and to something as simple as laughing if they tell a joke. I mean, it can be kind of um, nerve-wracking to say something, especially a joke, and if no one laughs if they're participating. It would be great for us to do that in order to help them to feel comfortable in the setting. Um, uh, I love the story about the math teacher and in the reading and how the math teacher would take time to when the kid was giving the wrong answer to the math problem and he was doing that in front of the whole class, the teacher said, "Well, that's the most creative way I've ever seen that problem done." And he didn't put him down for that. And I think that we have to understand and recognize that people are coming from different scenarios and that people are coming from different backgrounds and that they're going to feel like we are whatever they're doing, whether we agree with it or not, or like the reading said, we need to understand their point of view and their background. I mean, we don't have to. We just can't judge them for what they say or what they do, and we need to be sure that we are encouraging them to care and feel safe enough that they actually want to intake and let's soak in the information that's coming through the workshop. One thing that I think is going to be hard to find a balance between is to make sure that the people are not bored, but also that they're not overstimulated. Um, this can be especially a hard balance to find. I don't think I'll have a problem with overstimulation because this will be my first trial run. But also, I think something that I would need to be particularly concerned about is that they're not bored. We've got to come up with some jokes and some different attention grabbers. If we got it, and I feel like too, it's important that we, after the reading, especially from the CES handbook and from the teaching skills, I feel like we have to. I kept thinking of the workshop as being alive. We prepare this workshop, and it's the workshop preparation that we do isn't really alive. It's just the outline of preparation. But when we get to the actual workshop, I feel like it's important for us to implement what we're learning and to find skills that relate to comments that they make. Not to change what we're doing, but to um, adjust with the crowd. If the crowd's not, interested, or then we have to go off the cuff a little bit. If somebody makes a comment that's like really negative or that's demeaning toward another person or toward you, I feel like we have to take the class, we have to read them, and I think that each workshop is going to be different, where the same information might be taught. I feel like because for my workshop especially, we're teaching the same things over and over again, but to 4 different workshops. But I feel like um, we have to allow them to. We have to keep the same. We have to let the workshop be alive. I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like it'll be a different feeling and a different vibe with each group that we get, and that we have to make sure we're captivating each audience and learn them as we go to make sure that it's an effective workshop each time. And that's all.